Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to the latest London South East CEO interview. I'm joined today by Tony Hawkins, CEO at Columbus Energy, and he's with me to talk through his take on the merger with Bahamas Petroleum. Welcome, Tony.
Good morning. Hi, Donald.
We heard from the Koot executive chairman, and he was convinced that the Bahamas merger was most definitely the way to go. Is that how you and the board see it?
Yes, absolutely. The board was unanimous in its decision to recommend the merger. It made that decision really based on a few factors. Most importantly, number one, the combined business will be far larger, have more capital, and it will be much more resilient to weather storms like COVID-19. Secondly, it was the asset overlap between the two businesses is very good, and that's the asset overlap in people, assets, and finance. Thirdly, we are gaining access to the Perseverance 1 well. That access is essentially on ground floor terms, and Columbus would not have been able to gain access to an asset like that on ground floor terms outside of the merger. And then fourthly, we had our Rule 3 advisor, VSA, who's our Rule 3 advisor. They provide independent advice to the board on the financial terms of the transaction. And their recommendation was that the financial terms were fair and reasonable. So those four items all came together for the unanimous board recommendation to do the deal.
Which takes us to the point, how did you price the deal? Some shareholders are saying that 25 million in shares at 2.67 pence per share isn't enough for the your well-balanced assets in Trinidad and Suriname. Discuss.
Yeah, sure. So pricing the deal, essentially it's priced on a comparison of the two share prices. Now that's relatively tricky in that each of the companies has had a relatively volatile share price over the last 12 months, depending on drilling results and or preparations for drilling or drilling commencement, drilling announcements. So, but having said that, it is priced on share prices. The Rule 2.7 announcement that came out last week priced the Columbus shares at 2.67 pence. That was based on the closing share price on the day before the deal was announced. And that's interesting because if you look back even just to March this year, mid-March this year, Columbus was priced at 0.92p. So, and another way of looking at that, was that the offer is for the exchange ratio is 0.803. And what does that mean? It means that essentially that Bahamas are offering 80% of the value of a Bahamas share to every Columbus shareholder for each share that they hold. So that's what they call the exchange ratio. So the exchange ratio is 0.803. And that brings up an interesting technical point in that there's potential for some arbitrage there if the two prices diverge too much in the short term. But I think the important metrics are the ones that we've mentioned. So it's the 2.67p price on the day before the announcement, the 0.92p in March 2020, and the other way of measuring it is in premiums. So it was an 11% premium to the share price the day before the announcement was made. It was 25% premium on the 1 month VWAP and a 36% premium on the 2 month VWAP. So those are some useful metrics for our shareholders to look at. I think it's also important, besides the metrics, to consider the deal, how we came to the deal. And it's important to realise that the board met and discussed this deal in essence every day, bar for a handful of occasions during the due diligence process and also during the negotiation. So the board looked at the deal very, very carefully, and the board took a 6 to 12 month view of where the company would be with and without the merger. And the board then, looked at, you can look at the easy scenario where Perseverance 1 is a success. And I think in that scenario, Columbus shareholders will have received circa 25% of the company with 770 million barrels discovered resource. So that was the easy scenario, and that's the more difficult case was if the Perseverance well was ambiguous. The board is of the view that by that time the combined business will be better placed than if it hadn't done the deal, and that's important. Our assets will be more advanced, and our balance sheet will be stronger. And so when we looked at all those metrics and those considerations, again, we came to the view that the deal was in the best. We recommended the deal to our shareholders.
So are you actually convinced that this is the best deal that was possible to be negotiated, given that, as you say, you spent, best part of 2 months meeting every day to discuss? Was it the best deal that was on the table?
Well, yeah, that's a hard question. It's a perennial question. That's very difficult to answer. But I think if you gather together the things we've just talked about, as well as the VSA recommendation on the financial terms, then yes, the board's convinced that this is the right deal to do.
So when did negotiations with the PPC actually begin? And was it before COVID and the oil price impacted, or after?
Okay, yeah. The COVID-19, we made a public statement on COVID-19 back in March about the effect on our operations, and we began the due diligence and discussions with Bahamas in early April. So it was post COVID-19. And that's an important factor, because I think when we look at our business, whilst our production has been relatively stable over the last 6 to 12 months, undoubtedly our business has been affected by an oil price that's fallen by up to 2/3. So that was an important consideration as well. So
what has changed with Columbus? Were you actually too small to go it alone? Would that be a fair thing to say?
I think the fair way to look at it is to look at the capital markets, and the capital markets, like companies, the bigger companies, bigger companies find it easier to get funding, and there's more liquidity, and liquidity is important both for our institutional shareholders, but also for our retail shareholders. So the combined business will be bigger, it will be more liquid, and that will provide more opportunity.
So you think the capital markets will smile more favourably on a larger entity?
I would hope so. Yes, I would think so.
Okay, which takes us to Perseverance and the Perseverance asset. What is your view on that asset? We've heard from Leo as to what he thought. What's your view, the board's view on that asset, and how close are BCP to being fully funded? Have they got a rig in place? Could you pick up on that kind of detail for me, please?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the Perseverance prospect is massive, and Leo talked in some detail about that in his interview. It's a big structure. What I like about it is that it's got multiple targets, multiple zones that it's targeting. So, one of those zones, if there's success in one of those zones, it's most likely lead to a commercial development. So that's got optionality. So I like that. In terms of funding, I think it's difficult for me to talk about BPC because of takeover code restrictions about what they do. But what is public is that they have announced that they will drill the well in Q4 2020, Q1 2021. So that's there. Of course, the board looked at that question, and we did our due diligence on that. Perseverance is an exciting prospect. There's no doubt about it. So, I'm very keen to see it drilled, and look forward to the results on that.
We've talked a lot about the board. The board is basically 4 people, which includes you, Leo, and Gordon Steen, the CFO. Mm-hmm. And as it happens, Leo's becoming a non-exec, and you and Gordon are going to be leaving the combined business. Mm. So what's the thinking behind that? And are the two of you quite sad to be leaving?
Yes, sure. On a personal level, of course. Gordon introduced Leo to the business. He's been instrumental in the business in the last few years. I think we've both personally we've enjoyed it very much, and we will be sad to leave. But we have stakeholders to take into account, and we need to put them first. So that's our shareholders, very importantly. But it's also our employees and other stakeholders. So, I'm convinced that this is the right deal for those stakeholders. So that's why we're backing the deal. In respect of Leo will continue to be involved in the business. It's in the 2.7 announcement that he's, a non-executive director will become a non-executive director of Bahamas. He'll be responsible for making sure that Suriname and Southwest Peninsula in particular are taken forward. And so, that's important for the Columbus shareholders who have put their faith in Leo to know that he's committed to the combined business going forward.
So Leo's the continuity man?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay. What news flow should we expect from you all, from CERP in the coming months?
Okay, with Columbus, what we've announced publicly is that the Goodron IPSC has been renegotiated, and that's in final form. Really, we're waiting for the signature ceremony for that, and we expect that to be late June, early July. So we'll be pleased to have renewed that IPSC. And then the second major project that we have is ongoing at the moment is the Trinity Innes CO2 injection project. We've announced a few weeks ago that we're doing continuous CO2 injection into the reservoir, and that's continuing. So those two projects are moving forward, and we're continuing with the Southwest Peninsula testing, again, which has been publicly disclosed. So there's lots to do with the existing business, and of course we'll be preparing for the merger as well.
Okay. My final question to you, Tony. What should the Columbus shareholders be preparing to do, and what should they do next?
Okay, so we'll put together a circular. A circular will be issued towards the end of June, and that will have the information on the merger, and it will give information to shareholders about what they need to do, and most importantly it will give instructions on how to vote on the proposed merger. Now that shareholder vote will be towards the end of July. So we'd encourage all the shareholders, please, to read the circular very carefully. We'll be providing as much information as we can on the deal and the effect on shareholders. And we'd encourage everybody to vote at the shareholders meeting. And if that's successful, then the merger will be effective as of early August. And there'll be information in the circular about what that practically means for shareholders.
Tony Hawkins, thank you very much indeed for joining us and updating us on the Bahamas merger. If you liked this interview and you'd like to see more like this one, please do subscribe to the London South East YouTube channel. And that's it for now. I'd just like to say thank you to you for watching, and stay safe.